Today, I'm going to be ranking my top 10 favorite perks in Call of Duty Zombies history. Perk-a-Colas have appeared in almost every single Zombies map since their debut on Verrückt, and they have become a staple throughout the entire series, giving the player a way to gain different abilities and become more powerful throughout the game. A few disclaimers to throw out there for those of you that haven't seen any of my previous lists. This is going to be a Treyarch only list, due to the fact that I haven't played enough non-Treyarch maps to make me feel comfortable with getting those involved. However, I do think that the majority of the perks in those non-Treyarch maps are basically the exact same, so I don't think I have too much to worry about. Also, I need to make it clear that this list is very opinionated, very subjective. This is all going to be my opinion. The video is titled My Top 10 Favorite Perks, not the top 10 best perks, objectively stating. So before I begin my list, if you would like to support the channel, please be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to stay notified for any future videos or streams that I do on the channel. As always with these videos, I like to start off the list by giving some honorable mentions, and these are selections that I was really considering for the top 10, but it didn't quite make it, and I still wanted to mention them or talk about them. Typically for these videos, I have multiple honorable mentions, but for this one, I actually only have one, and that honorable mention is going to go to Electric Cherry, which is a perk that I think is slightly overlooked. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's an amazing perk. Obviously, it couldn't quite make the top 10, but I do think it's good enough to warrant that honorable mention spot, because this perk, it's pretty good in my opinion. It basically makes it to where every time you reload, an electric shock will be administered from you, and it will electrocute any zombies that are around you, which can actually help you out at times. Because say you get into a scenario where you are about to be trapped in a corner and you have to reload your weapon, when you reload, the electric shock will at the very least stun the zombies and buy you some time to reload your weapon and get back on your feet. And that's only if the electrocution doesn't kill them. If it did kill the zombies around you, then that's obviously even better. And that's not to say that will always be the case, because sometimes, especially in the higher rounds, the electrocution won't always help, and I think that's why a lot of people don't care for Electric Cherry all that much, because it basically becomes useless later in the game. But I'm someone who doesn't really go for high rounds all that much, so I'm not used to utilizing this perk in the higher rounds. I mainly use it in the earlier rounds where it actually is a bit more useful, so I feel like I'm able to see the good in it. Also, just looking at Electric Cherry from a broader perspective, this perk is such a classic, and they are always finding ways to bring this perk back in interesting ways. And granted, this perk is better in some games and worse in others. Personally, I think Electric Cherry shines the best in the older games where it really helps you out because of the difficulty in the classic systems. But yeah, I just wanted to give this perk the spotlight a bit and give it the honorable mention treatment. And now it is time to begin the actual top 10 list. Coming in at the number 10 spot is going to be Vulture Aid, which I don't think would be on this list if it wasn't for its little resurgence lately. This is mainly due to the fact that Vulture Aid just made its long-awaited return in Black Ops 6, but we'll get to that in just a minute, because this perk actually made its debut on the map Buried all the way back in Black Ops 2, and I'm not gonna lie, I think to this day, the BO2 version of Vulture Aid is still my favorite version. This perk makes it where when you kill the zombies, there's a high chance these little packets of ammo and points will fall from the zombies, and you can go and collect them all. But not only that, there's another cool ability the Buried version of Vulture Aid can do, and that is when some zombies die, they leave behind this green smoke, and when you stand in it, you become invisible to the zombies. It also does a really cool thing where when you're standing in the smoke, the perk icon will start to have a green smoke come out of it. I love that detail so much. And I think that's the main thing that makes the Buried version of Vulture Aid my favorite, but like I said, they brought this perk back in Black Ops 6, and even though it's not my favorite version, I still really like what they did with it. It feels like a match made in heaven, because one of the main mechanics of Black Ops 6 is loot and salvage dropping from zombies. And considering the fact that the whole point of Vulture Aid is to give you loot, it just seems like a no-brainer to bring this perk back. And they did. Granted, I think that in another universe, there's probably a better alternative for what they ended up doing with it, but I actually think it's pretty good here. They basically just made it where it drops the same loot as before, but in greater numbers this time around, while also adding the little ammo package just like Buried. No green smoke, unfortunately, but the player can do different things with this perk because of the augment system. They can unlock these different abilities to Vulture Aid that can suit their needs. For example, I like to use the augment where the loot dropped from zombies while the perk is equipped will have a higher chance of being my lethal and tactical equipment. I especially like to use that during high rounding, which, like I said, is very rare, but it really does help. But overall, Vulture Aid, it's not the most interesting perk, it's not going to save your life or completely change the game, but I really enjoy using it, both the Black Ops 6 and Buried versions, but the Buried version, of course, is my favorite, so it's going at the number 10 spot. Coming in at the number 9 spot is going to be Deadshot Daiquiri, which, similar to Electric Cherry, I think is another perk that is overlooked. And I think that's because as the years have gone by and the games have gotten easier, the need for Deadshot has gone down drastically. This perk, in my opinion, is so helpful in the earlier games. It really just felt like aimbot when you had this perk, to be honest, because Deadshot is designed to make you lock on to a headshot. But the aim assist in the older Zombies games was already pretty insane, so combine that with the fact that this perk just makes you aim for the head, like I said, basically aimbot. But again, like I said for Electric Cherry, because the older mechanics made the game much more difficult, Deadshot at the time felt like such a big upgrade, whereas nowadays, the games are much easier and Deadshot just doesn't feel as necessary anymore. You're given so much stuff in the games now, loadouts, field upgrades, equipment, and other stuff, to the point where Deadshot just feels like part of the system. It doesn't even feel like as big of an upgrade as it once was because it's really not upgrading much nowadays because you have so much. Back then, you hardly had anything, so Deadshot was a better upgrade. And it's that specific time period where I see the biggest strengths of this perk. Back then when Deadshot was much more serviceable to the player, and even then, probably not one of your 4 choices, but I do think that every now and then, a lot of us would pick up Deadshot to at least help us out. The longer I play Zombies, the less I realize how important the little things are, such as the difference between locking on for a body shot versus locking on for a headshot. Much less ammo is being wasted by getting those headshots. They only take about 2 to 4 bullets in the earlier rounds to kill them, and those are things Deadshot can do. Those are things that Zombies players who have played for years don't think about anymore because it's become so natural to them. And I do wish Deadshot maintained that importance throughout the games because, who knows, maybe it could have gone a bit higher on the list, but unfortunately that's just not the way it turned out, and Deadshot as a perk is one that people just don't care about that much anymore. But to me, it's important enough to at least make it in the bottom section of my top 10 list, chilling here at the number 9 spot. And coming in at the number 8 spot is going to be PhD Flopper, a perk that several years ago I most likely would not have on this list. With Cold War and Black Ops 6, I've really liked what they've done for PhD Flopper. They've given it multiple different characteristics such as having the ability to slide farther, slide into zombies and make them explode, dive into a horde of zombies and make them explode, and of course, make you immune to fall damage and explosives. They've combined all of these abilities into the more recent PhD iterations, and I've really loved it. But with that being said, when I think of PhD Flopper, that's not where my mind goes instantly. When I think of PhD, I think of my time on Buried, where I would get the PhD Flopper perma upgrade and dive off the staircase next to the mystery box and create those explosions. That was my childhood right there. I did that so much when I was younger, you'd actually think I was needing immediate help. That was my first ever experience with PhD Flopper. I, of course, started playing Zombies in Black Ops 2, so I wasn't around when PhD made its debut all the way back in BO1. But I love what they did with it in Buried, making it a perma perk that you get when you take a lot of fall damage. It was such a good time. I remember me and my friends always trying to get PhD and dive off the stairs into a horde of zombies, or at the very least, watch all the explosions we create. With that being said, even though those days on Buried were a lot of fun, I do love what they've done with PhD in these recent games. And I think that is actually what brings this perk into the top 10 for me, because I already really loved it back on Black Ops 2, so it was already close to the top 10, but these recent games have just solidified it, in my opinion. I always find it an essential perk to get. It's usually one of the first few perks I get in a game, and there are obviously no perk limits in Cold War or BO6, so I could really get it whenever I want. So I find it high praise to say that PhD is one of the first few I get in my games. If I'm not getting it to dive into zombies from a higher place and blow them up, which nowadays is really not why I get the perk anymore, it's mainly due to its slide duration. That's what's been the best part of PhD in my opinion, because it allows you to either get to where you need to go a little faster or help you get out of a bad situation. This is crucial to me when I'm both high rounding and doing the Easter egg, but especially when I'm doing the Easter egg, because there are times where I need to move and evade very quickly, whether it's in the middle of a boss fight or during an intense lockdown step. And to me, that's why I find this perk important, and that's why I like it a lot. These recent games have given me an actual reason to get PhD. It serves an important role to me as I progress throughout the game or during the later half of my game. And because of that, this is in my top 10 favorite perks of all time, and it will take the number 8 spot. And coming in at the number 7 spot is going to be Dying Wish. And listen, if there's any Black Ops 4 perk that is going to make my top 10, it just has to be this one. If you've played BO4 even just a few times, you've most likely used this perk before, because this is the crutch perk of this game. Dying Wish makes it to where every time you lose all your health, you go into an invulnerable state for a few seconds rather than going down, and then it recharges after a while. Without a doubt, the best perk in Black Ops 4, so spoiler alert, there's no other BO4 perk on the list, but that's because most of them suck. So, yeah, Dying Wish is definitely the best one. It's the most life-saving perk in the entire game. Usually everyone that I see play this game always has Dying Wish equipped, so I feel like that tells you everything you need to know. No matter what you're doing in the game, whether it's just playing casually, doing challenges, gauntlets, high rounds, the Easter eggs, side Easter eggs, Dying Wish is important in every single facet of the game. I feel like the only thing that would have moved this up on my list is if we saw this perk again rather than just seeing it in Black Ops 4. And granted, they did bring Dying Wish back as a quick revive augment in Black Ops 6, but I don't really care about it all that much, at least not like how I did in BO4. So I don't think I really need to state why this perk is in my top 10 favorites. I feel like the answer is pretty clear cut. Dying Wish, best perk in BO4, and it will take the number 7 spot. Coming in at the number 6 spot is going to be Stamina Up, and we finally made it to a perk that has become a part of almost every single Zombies map. This is a classic. Stamina Up simply makes you run faster, and I cannot express to you how good it feels to get this perk, especially on a map that is really big and requires a lot of traveling. The feeling of being able to go faster brings such a relief, because then you also get the feeling that you're not wasting time moving at what feels like a snail's speed. Not only does it help with traversing the map, but it also just helps in the actual gameplay too. Especially on those big maps, it becomes much easier to train zombies since you're at least able to move a little faster than the zombies on those higher rounds. Also, I don't know if it's just me, but Stamina Up in these recent games has felt a little faster than the more classic games, but I don't know if it's just my field of view making it look that way, or the augments I have equipped in BO6 making me run faster, but that's just how I feel. But I think Stamina Up works a lot better in the classic games though, mainly for what I said with some of the previous perks on my list. The classic mechanics just made the game harder, and Stamina Up felt like a much bigger upgrade back then, especially since you moved much slower in the earlier games. And as the years went by, the maps just continued to get bigger and bigger. After all, Stamina Up made its first appearance on Ascension, which is a pretty big map, especially for its time, and then eventually we would get even bigger maps like Transit, Mob of the Dead, Origins, and Stamina Up was so good for those particular maps, and it still continues to be good. So I don't really need to talk up Stamina Up, that sounded pretty cool. If you've played Zombies, you know what this perk is, and you know how much it can help you. It doesn't quite make it into my top 5 because I have some other perks I like just a bit more, but it will take the number 6 spot. Kicking off the top 5, I've got Double Tap, another very iconic perk that has really been through the ringer over the years. This perk is a really big fan favorite. It simply increases the fire rate of your weapon, at least that's what Double Tap 1.0 did, and then Double Tap 2.0 came out and increased your fire rate as well as doubled your damage. So Double Tap 2.0 is definitely better than 1.0. But in the older games, it definitely felt like Double Tap, even though it was really good, was just wasting ammo a bit because of its fast fire rate, especially with Double Tap 1.0. However, I would say that especially with Black Ops 3's Double Tap, that's where it's the best for me personally. I use a lot of shotguns in that game, weapons that benefit a lot from a faster rate of fire, so I think that is my favorite iteration of the perk. But the hot topic of conversation surrounding Double Tap right now is that they finally, after so many years of not seeing it, brought it back in BO6, and I still love it just like I did in the old days, but I feel like I could say the same thing about this perk that I did with some of the others. It just doesn't feel like as big of an upgrade anymore, but I think it's okay on Black Ops 6. I think they did a pretty good job with it. I'm very glad they brought it back after so many years of not seeing it, and it really reminded me how much I missed this perk. But the reason why I put Double Tap over Stamina Up is, 1, everything I said already, but 2, usually I have a debate over which perk I should take as my 4th slot, Double Tap or Stamina Up, and I think the majority of the time I would pick Double Tap. Mainly because I said I would use Stamina Up on a much bigger map just to help me get around faster, but Double Tap is beneficial on any map, because it only enhances the weapons you have rather than doing anything to change the way you get around the map. Therefore, I have a better reason to get Double Tap on a map rather than Stamina Up. Obviously not the case for all the maps though. I think the first few maps that come to my mind where I would choose Stamina Up over Double Tap are Ascension and Origins. But one thing those maps share similarities in is the fact that there's no physical Double Tap machine on either. So it makes sense for me to choose Stamina Up over Double Tap just so I don't have to get it through Gobblegums or the Wonder Fizz. And the overall point I'm trying to make is that I would much rather use Double Tap than Stamina Up, and that is why I put it above it. And that is also why it will take the number 5 spot. Coming in at the number 4 spot is going to be Speed Cola, another classic perk on our hands, and one that is so classic to the point where it is shocking it didn't make the top 3. These 3 perks that I have listed back to back are all doing the same thing, making you do things faster, whether it's sprinting, shooting, reloading. These perks are speeding you up and making you not waste time, as well as move faster than the enemies themselves. And that feeling of moving faster is so good, and that's why Speed Cola is a must. Especially when it feels like most games we always want to rock with an LMG or just something that has a bigger clip, which means that the reload time of the weapon is going to be much slower, so having Speed Cola goes a long way, especially in the earlier games where the reload time for so many weapons was already very, very slow. So nowadays it has become one of the most essential perks to get, just like what I said with Dying Wish and BO4. Every time I see someone playing zombies, they always have Speed Cola as one of their perks. So I don't think I really need to talk about Speed Cola that much. Everyone who has played zombies should know what this is and what it does. It's a must-have in any game because, like I said, having the ability to move faster in any way will significantly improve your game. And that is why it is one of my favorite perks, and that is why it will take the number 4 spot. Coming in at the number 3 spot is going to be Widow's Wine, and this is a perk I'm very excited to talk about because this is a perk that has only appeared in one game, and it is really, really good. Widow's Wine has only appeared in Black Ops 3, and it fits the vibe of the game very well, especially with all the crazy creatures that there are in this game. But this perk basically makes it to where every single time a zombie hits you, they will become trapped in a spider web and get stuck. Not only this, but your grenades are different as well, and every time you throw them, they explode into a web, trapping any zombie in its radius. Also, those grenades determine how many more hits you can take. Every time you get hit and webs explode from you, you lose a grenade, and when you're out of grenades, webs won't explode from you when you get hit, so you'll take actual damage. However, those grenades can be recovered by max ammos and little blue power-ups that spawn in every now and then. And finally, it makes your melee weapon a bit stronger, and it'll also make the zombies get stuck in webs. So even with all of those abilities combined, it's still a very well-rounded perk. And it can genuinely save your life in a sticky situation, pun absolutely intended. If you're in a situation where you are trapped, then Widow's Wine will do most of the work by trapping the zombies in webs, so you can find a way out. And because of all of that, if you hop on a map where there is an option to get Widow's Wine, and especially if you're trying to high round, then I feel like it's an opportunity to take for sure. Also, just off looks alone and the design of this perk, it is so cool. And like I said, fits with the vibe of the game so well. And there's a part of me that wishes we saw this perk again after BO3, but then there's another part of me that thinks the reason I love this perk so much is because Widows is exclusive to BO3. It didn't get overused. It was a perk that served a purpose for one game and one game only, and that makes it more special. I hope that in the future they do another perk where it's exclusive to one game while also being really helpful throughout a match. Widows was all of that, and that is why it will take the number 3 spot. Coming in at the number 2 spot is going to be Quick Revive, which is probably the best perk that you can get on solo. Another absolute classic, and another perk that so many solo players get on every single match, like myself. I'm very much a solo player, so I'm always getting Quick Revive because it is quite literally a lifeline. This perk simply makes it to where on solo you will get self-revived if you go down, but the thing I really like about it is the fact that it's not endless. You can only buy this perk a handful of times when you get revived, because if you had the ability to just revive yourself constantly, you'd be playing the game forever. But because there are limits to the amount of times you can purchase it, you still have to be careful throughout the course of the game. If you're playing co-op, Quick Revive will make it to where you can revive other players a lot faster, and that can be beneficial, especially depending on who you're playing with, but that's not the version that matters to me all that much. Like I said, I'm a solo player, so the main reason I love this perk so much is because it is that lifeline to a solo player, and I feel like we need it. When you're playing co-op, your lifeline is your teammates, and you just gotta hope they can revive you in time, but you don't have that on solo, so Quick Revive provides that. Also, it's just nice to have that feeling of a lifeline. Like I mentioned before, it's nice to feel faster with all of those other perks. It's nice to sprint faster, reload faster, shoot faster, and all that good stuff, but it also feels good to know that when you go down, you're going to get back up. And again, I want to clarify, the reason why I love Quick Revive so much is because I am a solo player at heart. So this perk is always a must in basically every single game I play. And I'm going to put it here at the number 2 spot. And now it is time for the number 1 pick. I'm sure you guys are never going to guess what it is. That's right, my favorite perk of all time is Who's Who. And listen, so many people love to dog on this perk. However, I feel like I'm the only one in the world that actually sees the good of this perk. Personally, my favorite thing about Who's Who is... Yeah, I can't continue with this joke. It's Juggernog. My favorite perk is Jug. There's no way around it. It's just the best. Juggernog simply increases your health. It's the most bare bones perk out there, but it is one that is important for every game and for everyone. Nowadays, Juggernog is just kind of whatever because of how powerful you are now, but in those classic games, especially the ones where you only needed to get hit twice in order to go down, Juggernog was legendary. We all know that Jug is usually one of the first few perks we grab in a game, if not the first one. Similar to Quick Revive, it is literally a lifeline, except it's for everybody of any game. This perk is the key to survival. I said it is the most bare bones perk out there because the concept of just increasing your health is pretty bare bones, but it is also the most iconic perk out there, and that just proves that most of the time simplicity is the best thing as long as it's actually helping you in a game. So I don't really know what I need to say about Juggernog that you don't know already. I don't think this is a hot take at all. I'm pretty sure Juggernog is mostly everybody's favorite perk. Like I said, the most iconic, and it's just simply the best. It helps you in every single game, and it's going to claim the throne of being my favorite perk of all time. But let me know what you all think of this list. Do y'all agree or disagree with my ranking? Let me know what you would change or keep the same. I'm very curious to hear all of your thoughts. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to check out some of my other videos on this channel, and make sure to leave a like on this one as well. Also, consider subscribing to the channel if you are new, and click the notification bell to stay notified for other videos and streams that I do on the channel, and I will see you all in the next one.